this regard, members of the public who stand up and talk at town council meetings are held to a much higher code of conduct than the councillors who sit around at the tables. Now, someone spoke at a town council meeting and complained that there was an atmosphere between residents and some councillors. The problem there is not the residents. We are trying to hold our elected representatives to account using fair and legal means that we are given. We are trying to ensure honesty and transparency. Instead, we are met with obstruction, obfuscation, and in some instances, residents have been met with accusations and falsehoods. Residents are frustrated and disillusioned by our town council because they feel it doesn't listen to them. But instead of taking stock and wondering why residents feel that way, you have a siege mentality. That it's not the fault of the councillors, it's those gobby-mouthy troublemakers who are talking our town down. I would draw comparisons to the final 30 minutes of the movie Downfall. But as one resident has discovered, some of our councillors take criticism and conflate it into being compared to Adolf Hitler. Now, Local Government Secretary Eric Pickles announced the openness of local government regulations in 2014, which enshrined in law the right of residents, bloggers and journalists to report, blog, tweet and film council meetings in England. And this is a quote. The Department of Communities and Local Government said that the new law would aim to end the active resistance among some local councils to greater openness. Pickles added, local democracy needs local journalists and bloggers to report, scrutinise the work of their council, and increasingly people read their news via digital media. There is now no excuse for any council not to allow these rights. Parliament has changed the law to allow a robust and healthy local democracy. This will change the way people see local government and allow them to view close up the good work that councillors do. Meanwhile, in Portishead, in February this year, some members of the town council decided to take a vote to form a working party to agree a protocol for filming meetings. Now, you'd think there'd be more pressing concerns to take up the town council's time other than discussing something that is already a right in law. Thus far, filming of town council meetings has netted more pork pies than Eric Pickles could manage if he broke into Greggs the Baker's. So we have a working party, because titles are always important. Wasting time trying to find a problem for something that is a legal right. Actually, forget Downfall. This is more like Jurassic Park. Except the velociraptors in Jurassic Park were smart, could open doors. Our council will form a working party to agree whether indeed it was a door, and whether you should push it or pull it, all the while being devoured by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It would be easy to attend our town council meetings and think that dinosaurs ran this town. Except A, that's a bit harsh on dinosaurs, and B, dinosaurs would actually be an evolutionary step up. And there's one thing that evolution teaches us, and that's as conditions change, life has to either adapt or go extinct. Portishead as a town has changed beyond what it was 40 years ago. When I was growing up here, we had 5 or 6 petrol stations, 4 post offices. I could see my GP the same day. You could get your kids into the nearest school, no problem. We had a train. Back then, the village was literally a village. Despite the industrialisation of the docks and the power station, Portishead still had its roots in its rural beginnings. But Portishead is no longer a village. And turning up at our town council meetings, you'd think it was an episode of The Vicar of Dibley. Portishead is a town already failing to match infrastructure with development. As I've said, I've lived here 40 years. I've supported the local economy. I think it gives me the right to be critical of my town. Yes, we have the sculptures. Yes, we have the marina with its expensive yachts. Yes, we have the swanky restaurants. And let's not forget the flowers and awards, but there's nothing. Some of our elected officials like to do more than remind you of how gorgeous the reflection of our town is. But anyone who knows their Greek mythology will know the story of Narcissus, who fell in love with his own reflection in the water and drowned. This is literally the last page. Because right now, Portishead is a town drowning under rampant development. Its roads are sinking and crumbling under the weight and number of cars. We point to rising property prices as a sign of prosperity, forgetting it makes owning a home, starting a life, impossible for many people. We have a health centre barely coping with the increase in population. We have streets that become racetracks at night because you rarely see a police presence. Unless you count the town council meetings where they get the occasional invite from the clerk to keep the rowdy serfs in check. We have empty shops, we have empty houses, but where is our town council in all this? Painting the railings the right shade of blue. Don't get me wrong, Portishead's a great place to live. But bit by bit, the things that make this place so special are starting to disappear under concrete political expedients. The Greeks have a mythical symbol, the Ouroboros. It's a snake eating its own tail. Or if you're to be more coarse, it's a snake with its head up its own backside. But we have a town council where the power balance lays in towing the party line from central government to local government through to the town council. It's a circle, seeking only to serve itself. Portishead deserves better. It deserves having a voice that will oppose things like the redevelopment of Mill Road. A voice that will say, we're going to have a skate park. A voice that will say, we will protect the golf course and its use as a public right of way. A voice that will say, we will support residents who want safer roads and crossings. A voice that will say, well, if we paid for that nature reserve, we should have a say in its future. It's said that we live in a post-truth world of all facts, and frankly, every time the TV news comes on and there's another statement issued from the White House, I find myself wanting to hide behind the sofa like I did when Doctor Who came on. We live in an uncertain age now. In fact, we seem to be moving into uncharted territory that frankly scares me more than the Daleks of the Autons ever did. We can either shrink from that world or pretend it's not happening, or we become the change we want to see. And that can only happen with change at the ballot box. Party politics are not serving Portishead. They are simply serving the art of party politics. We may not be able to make the world a better place, not just yet, but we could certainly make Portishead better than it is right now by having a town council more representative of the people, more responsive to the problems, and more resilient to the pressures from county council. The Chinese have a saying, the longest journey starts with but a simple single step. I say to Portishead, get your boots on, we're going for a walk.
Thank you, John. I won't say any more. Now we come to tonight's main speaker, Peter Macfadyen, one of the founders of the members of the Flat Pack Democracy movement, which originated in Frome and a leading light of independence for Frome. Peter, we hope we can look to inspire us and consider what we need to do on the way to independent councillors. Okay.
So, nobody told me I have to follow the stand-up. and actually, you know, how could you want more inspiration in many ways than what we just heard from Jonathan, which was great. But I don't have as carefully a written set of jokes. My aim is to give you some inspiration and to share some of what we've done in Frome, which had similar roots to this. You know, a group of us got together in a pub in early 2011 and variously moaned about the state of the council, and then decided that, well, maybe we ought to have some fun, basically, and raise the stakes. We knew that localism was about to arrive, which was this theoretical descent of power and decision-making that would come down from above. It hasn't really done that, but that's another story. So we kind of felt that there was a moment, and so we had a public meeting, not unlike this in many ways, which we thought about 20 people might come to, and about 80 people came to. And so that was about 2 months before the 2011 elections. 17 of us stood at a town, at the same level as you, the town level, the town council level, in that election, and 10 of us won. So we had 10 of us won seats, so we won 10 out of 17 seats. So we had a majority at that point, and what's more, the 7 who remained were split between the Tories and the Lib Dems, and they still hated each other more than us. So they never formed any sense of opposition. Because what we've heard so far this evening is that I think there's 2 different things going on here. One of which is that party politics at this level of government is a disaster. I mean, I think, personally, I feel it's a disaster at all levels, but that's maybe another story for another day. But at this level of local government, party politics just causes far more problems than it's worth. And so the sooner we get rid of it, the better. There is an additional problem, and they're linked obviously, which is that many local councils are seriously dysfunctional. And that's, as has been said, that's often not about the individuals. You know, it's the systems, and it's the way that the things have been going for years. Many people have been there for a very long time. Often there are clerks who have a completely different agenda, really. I mean, who have far too much power and are running the thing. You know, so we've got two different things going on here. We've got, if you like, dysfunctional local politics, and we've got party politics, and the two are tied into each other, in my view. So I said I was very happy to be invited to come here because I think we're at a moment which we're seeing more and more where, this many people are prepared to come out on a Friday night, because it goes back to what Jonathan was saying just now, in a sense. There's something going on which is deeply worrying. If we can. And for me, the only thing that we as individuals, ordinary people in ordinary towns, can do is to get engaged more. So that possibly there's a hope that a sort of groundswell nationally and internationally of concerned people sort of can effectively rise up and do something about what's going on. Because the populism which has filled the gap into this dysfunctional politics is really worrying. And of course it's not just here, or in America, it's across Europe. So I'm not going to say very much because I don't want. We've heard a lot, and what we want to do is to get more talking from you. But I think having come all the way from Frome, I should just tell you a little bit, and it will be a little, about what we've done there, what happened next, in effect. So we won that first election in 2011, and the very first thing we did at the very first meeting was to disband all the committees. What normally happens at the very first meeting of a town council is the clerk guides you through electing people onto all the committees and electing the mayor. You don't know what the committees do. You don't know who you are. You don't know how, in the sense of you don't know what your skills are and how they fit into the committees. You probably don't even know what the mayor could or should be doing. Excuse me. And so it felt like a really bad thing to be doing. One of the Lib Dems burst into tears in the grounds that we were going to ruin everything that had ever been done in Frome. And but just giving ourselves that 2 weeks meant that we had long enough to kind of look at all of the systems within the town council and keep asking, why do we do that? And usually the answer was because we always have, which was like a red rag to a bull. So we got rid of all them. So we've basically totally rewritten the way that the rules work. And you can do that. So the other thing which Jonathan alluded to is the way that if you, often you go to a council, the public can only speak for a very limited amount of time. You have to book in, you can only speak for your 2 minutes. The row of councillors choose whether to listen or not. They don't even have to thank you. It's incredibly rude. We've got rid of all that. So that we run meetings now basically as a sort of open, a sort of world cafe, so groups of tables with councillors sat on amongst the public, so that you don't necessarily even know who the councillors are until you wouldn't know, excuse me, until you come to voting. And that sort of thing can be done. So there is huge potential, and we've got sort of stuck in these rules, I think. Just going to pour some water. Thanks. Which, as I say, we've been very much able to get rid of, and as a result of that, and by being a group of Tories, and I'll jump ahead because at the next election, which was the 2015 election, we stood again thinking, hey, no one will stand against us surely because we've done such a good job. We all live in a small town. Everyone can see that we've got masses done. Actually, 48 other people stood, so every seat was contested by everybody, including UKIP, who'd never contested anything at a parish level, I don't think. And we won them all. Which was obviously far bigger a vote of confidence than the first time. Because basically what it said is that the people of Frome, at least, recognised that party politics was a complete anathema and just was totally unnecessary. And they would much rather have what the other speakers have talked about, which is people who are part of the town, who they knew because of who they were. I mean, I was known for green stuff that I'd done, but as a school governor, as a parent, and so on and so on. And So all of us were known in those sorts of ways. Our politics, our party politics, is completely irrelevant. And it really doesn't come into any of the discussions. It doesn't come into our discussions as a group or now as councillors, because it's not where we're guided from. We're guided solely for what is for the benefit of Frome. And that's being governed by what we call a set of ways of working, which are set out, and we've shared, which are really about good behaviour in a sense. They're about listening to people rather than talking first. They're about about respecting people, and incredibly importantly, not stabbing people in the back later, if you see what I mean. So that we have meetings which have a lot of disagreement in them, and we have public meetings where we vote against each other, and then we go to the pub, and it's kind of, what doesn't happen is that at the next meeting you don't then want to get back at the person who voted against you last time. And I wasn't sure that would work, but it's been going now for for 8 years, and we've never really had an issue with that. It seems incredibly important to sort of leave that baggage behind. Anyway, quite a lot of work has gone into those ways of working. So those are our internal, the internal thing. And the other thing that we said we would do is we would really go out to the people of Frome and listen, and do everything that we could to ensure that we were listening to their views and then responding to them. So we sort of upped the whole level of participation and engagement. And so this year we've got 3 different ways of participatory budgeting going on, so that people are involved in making the decisions about how the money's spent, and that's not advisory, it's what they decide, that is what will happen. See what I mean? So next weekend there's a group of people deciding how the 30 grand that's being spent on events will be spent. There's a sort of Dragon's Den type thing that we've set up with a group of citizens who've been selected by something called sortition, sort of random selection of people who wanted to be involved. Anyway, we're sort of experimenting with ways of doing this. But the crucial thing is that I think it's not the council and the people. It's trying to turn things around so that the council is responding to the people in a much more genuine way, which to me and to others of us just seems to make sense. And I suppose what I want you to gain from this is that these things are possible. Britain is littered with thousands. There are 10,000 parish councils. Thousands of them are complete and utter crap. And it's not because they're bad people at all. They are people trying to do their best. But the system and into which they've got locked, and this way that we just do what we've always done, with agendas which no one really understands, with minutes which you can't read, it's just so inaccessible. And it's a nonsense, and it doesn't have to be like that. So things like what we were just hearing can be done. That's what I want you to kind of come away with from Frome, because that is what we've been able to do. And we've done things which are effectively very Tory. So, for instance, we have a very large building called the Cheese and Grain, which was descended. It had a public subsidy every year of about 30 grand, and we turned that into now a thriving business, which doesn't need that subsidy at all, by giving it a grant and giving it a grant, and then it was much cheaper to pay off the interest. The Tories voted against that because we're in austerity, you shouldn't be borrowing, But we've done things like that, which in many ways are very Tory. The town council has worked with a whole bunch of local people to set up to get the whole food bank and campaigning around poverty much better sorted. So we're doing lots of stuff which is really about poverty in Frome and homelessness. We've done a great deal of things which are green. If I'd stood as a Green councillor, I wouldn't have got in, I shouldn't think. And we would never have had a majority. Most green stuff to me is common sense. It's parks, it's nature reserves, it's photovoltaics. If you label them as green politics, people will vote against them because our politics works with confrontation, which is insane. But we've actually done far more green stuff in Frome than any other council that I know of, and probably any that there is, and we've won all sorts of awards for this. And then we've done a whole load of sort of things which are essentially well-being, that aren't particularly political, just because they're common sense. We had a waiting list of 10 years for allotments, so we bought a field and got rid of the allotment, a waiting list. It's like, you don't have to do things. It's like, again, we were hearing from Jonathan, all this, we're endlessly forming a committee to It doesn't have to be done like that. You can just do things instantly. There's a thing we were talking about earlier of the powers of general competence. which a council can adopt, and I don't know if Portishead has, but it means that you can do anything that's legal. And I quite like, because it implies that councils that don't have a powers of general incompetence. Wales have just decided not to adopt the powers of general competence, because they would rather spend their money and their time, in ermine and chains, and keep the precept incredibly low, which they're very, very proud of. It means they can't do anything. And now that the district councils are getting no money from above, and the county councils are getting no money from above, if we don't do it at our level, it's not going to happen. Therefore, if you don't have ambition, and you don't probably raise the taxes, but it's not all about raising taxes. So we've got what I think is a fairly unique relationship now with the health centre, where we're getting significant money from the CCG, the Clinical Commissioning Group, together in a combination of the town council and the health centre, working really closely together to get very significant funding now. The pilot of this has led to Frome having 30% lower hospital admission rates than the rest of Somerset, which are very high. Look, these things can be done, and for us that bypasses the traditional sources of money. We're not going to get it from the district, we're not going to get it from Somerset. We don't want to raise the precept massively, and in fact, because it's so low, even if you double it, it's not going to make that much difference, if you see what I mean. You can't get enough money solely from a precept. So, although we have increased ours a bit, we won't do that. So there are other ways of bringing money in. We employ a fundraiser to fundraise for organisations in the town and for the town council. So these things can be done. I've nearly said everything I want to, I think. I'll mention, because I brought them, I wrote all this up in Flatback Democracy, which is how I come to be here, because that got bought here and then got